Lot is a person mentioned in the biblical book of Genesis chapters 11 to 14 and 19. Notable episodes in his life include his travels with his uncle Abram, his flight from the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, during which Lot's wife became a pillar of salt, and the seduction by his daughters so that they could bear children. Christians revere Lot as a righteous man of God. According to the Bible, Jesus is a descendant of Lot through David's great-grandmother Ruth, who was descended from Moab, Lot's son through one of his daughters. Lot in Genesis. Lot's background. Lot and his father Haran were born and raised in Ur of the Chaldees in the region of Samaria on the Euphrates River of Lower Mesopotamia. Roughly 4,000 years ago, Haran died in that land before his father Terah. Genesis chapter 11 verses 26 to 32 gives the generations of Terah, Lot's grandfather, who arranged for their large family to set a course for Canaan where they could re-establish a new home. Among the family members that Lot traveled with was his uncle Abram, one of the three patriarchs of Israel. They settled at the site called Haran where Lot's grandfather, Terah, lived the rest of his days. He was 205 years old when he died. Genesis chapter 12 reveals Abram's obedience to the Lord at the age of 75, in continuing his journey to the land of promise. Though Abram's father, Terah, stayed behind, his nephew Lot went with him. v. 1-4. There is no mention of Lot having a wife yet. They went southwestward into the land of Canaan, to the place of Sikkim. v. 5-6, the present-day west bank of Nablus. Later they traveled south to the hills between Bethel and Hai. v. 8, before journeying further toward the south of Canaan. v. 9, after dwelling in the land of Canaan for a little while, there was a famine, and they journeyed further south into Egypt. v. 10-20, after having dwelt in Egypt for some time, they acquired vast amounts of wealth and livestock, and returned to the Bethel area. Gen. 13-1-5. Lot in the plain of Jordan. Genesis chapter 13 discusses Abram and Lot's return to Canaan after the famine had passed and the lands became fertile again. They traveled back through the Negev to the hills of Bethel. v. 1-3, with their sizable numbers of livestock and always on the move. Both families occupying the same pastures became problematic for the herdsmen who were assigned to each family's herd. v. 6-7, the conflicts between herdsmen had become so troublesome that Abram recommended to Lot that they should part ways, lest there be conflict amongst brethren. v. 8-9, although Abram gave Lot the choice of going north, in which case he would go south, or if Lot chose south, Abram would go north. Lot instead looked before him beyond Jordan and saw a well-watered plain, and chose that land, for it was like the garden of the Lord, before the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah and the formation of the Salt Sea. Abram then headed south to Hebron, staying within the land of Canaan. Lot had encamped on the green Jordan plain among the cities of the plain and initially pitched his tent towards Sodom. About 8 years before he moved there, the kings of the 5 cities had become vassal states of an eastern alliance of 4 kingdoms under the leadership of Chedorlaomer, king of Elam, whom they served for 12 years. But the 13th year they rebelled. The following year the 4 armies with Chedorlaomer returned, and at the Battle of the Vale of Siddim, the kings of Sodom and Gomorrah fell in defeat. v. 5-10, Chedorlaomer spoiled the cities and took captives as he departed, including Lot, who by then dwelt in Sodom. v. 11-12, when Abram heard what had happened to his brother Lot, he armed a rescue force of 318 of his trained servants and pursued and caught up to the armies of the 4 kings in the area of Dan. v. 13-14, he divided his forces and attacked at night from more than one direction, and the kings fled northeast. The pursuit continued, and the slaughter of Chedorlaomer and the other kings was completed at Hobah north of Damascus. Abram brought back his brother Lot, and all the people and their goods. Lot flees Sodom. 24 years after Abram and Lot began their sojourning, the Lord changed Abram's name to Abraham, and gave him the covenant of circumcision. Genesis chapter 17. Not long afterward, the Lord appeared to Abraham. 3 men came to visit and have a meal with him, and after 2 left to go to Sodom. Abraham stood yet before the Lord. Gen. 18:1-22. Abraham boldly pleaded on behalf of the people of Sodom, where Lot dwelt, and obtained assurance the city would not be destroyed if 50 righteous were found there. He continued inquiring, reducing the number to 45, 40, 30, 20, and finally if there were 10 righteous in the city, it would be spared. 18:23-33. Genesis chapter 19 verse 1. And there came 2 angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot seeing them rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. 2. And he said, Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. 3. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. After supper that night, before bedtime, the men of the city, young and old, gathered around Lot's house, demanding he bring his 2 guests out that they might know them. Lot went out and closed the door behind him and prayed that they not do such wicked things, and offered them his virgin daughters, that had not known man, that they might know them instead, and do with as they pleased. His response infuriated the men of Sodom, who accused him of being judgmental, and they threatened to do worse to him than they would have done to the men. Gen. 19-4-9. Before they could harm Lot and break into the house, the men pulled Lot back in and struck the intruders with blindness, and revealed to Lot that they were angels sent to destroy the place. This allowed a window of opportunity for Lot to make preparations for him and his family to leave. When he went out to his sons-in-law that married his daughters, to warn them to flee, they treated him as one that mocked. Gen. 19:10-14. As the day began to dawn, the angels urged him to hasten and leave, and when he yet lingered, the angels took hold of the hands of Lot, his wife and 2 daughters, and transported them beyond the city and set them down. And the angel told Lot, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. Gen. 19:15-17. Lot argued that if he went to the mountain some evil would cause his death, and he requested to be allowed to flee instead to the little city which was closer. His request was accepted, and they headed for Zoar instead. Gen. 19:18-22. Genesis chapter 19 verse 23. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. 24. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. 25. And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. 26. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Abraham could see the smoke billowing upward from the countryside. V. 27-28. Instead of both brimstone and fire, Josephus has only lightning as the cause of the fire that destroyed Sodom. God then cast a thunderbolt upon the city, and set it on fire, with its inhabitants, and laid waste the country with the like burning. As I formerly said when I wrote the Jewish War, Lot and his daughters. The account of Lot and his daughters is in Genesis chapter 19 verses 30-38, Genesis chapter 19 verse 30. And Lot went up out of Zoar, and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar. And he dwelt in a cave, he and his 2 daughters. 31. And the firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. 32 Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. 33 And they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in, and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. 34 And it came to pass on the morrow, that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in, and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. 35 And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose, and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose. 36 Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. The older daughter conceived Moab, father of the Moabites, v. 37. The younger conceived Ben-Ammi, father of the Ammonites, v. 38. The story, usually called Lot and his daughters, has been the subject of many paintings over the centuries, and became one of the subjects in the Power of Women group of subjects, warning men against the dangers of succumbing to the temptations of women, while also providing an opportunity for an erotic depiction. The scene generally shows Lot and his daughters eating and drinking in their mountain refuge. Usually the background contains a small figure of Lot's wife, and in the distance the city or cities burn. Scholarly appraisal. The presumptive incest between Lot and his daughters has raised many questions, debates, and theories as to what the real motives were, who really was at fault, and the level of bias the author of Genesis chapter 19 had. However, such biblical scholars as Jacob Milgram, Victor P. Hamilton, and Callum Carmichael postulate that the Levitical laws could not have been developed the way they were, without controversial issues surrounding the patriarchs of Israel, especially regarding incest. Carmichael even attributes the entire formulation of the Levitical laws to the lives of the founding fathers of the nation, including the righteous Lot, who were outstanding figures in Israelite tradition. According to the scholars mentioned above, the patriarchs of Israel are the key to understanding how the priestly laws concerning incest developed. Kinship marriages amongst the patriarchs includes Abraham's marriage to his half-sister Sarai, Gen. 20:11-12, the marriage of Abraham's brother Nahor to their niece Milcah, Gen. 11:27-29, Isaac's marriage to Rebekah, his first cousin once removed, Gen. 27-42-43, 29-10, Jacob's marriages with two sisters who are his first cousins, Gen. 29-10, ch. 29, and, in the instance of Moses' parents, a marriage between nephew and aunt, Exod 6:20. Therefore, the patriarchal marriages surely matter to lawgivers, and they suggest a narrative basis for the laws of Leviticus, chapters 18 and 20. The Levitical laws against incest were created, it has been argued, to separate the lifestyle of the Israelite from the lifestyle of the people of Canaan, Gen. 9:22-28. Despite any incestual involvements the patriarchs had in the past, the Levitical laws were needed for a developing nation who needed to be seen as different from the world, cleansed and blameless. The first step, starting with circumcision, Gen. 17:1-10, ch. 17, so nothing could be held against the patriarchs for incestuous behavior because this was part of progressive development, from the ways of the world to becoming blameless before their God, Gen. 17:1. Some have argued that Lot's behavior in offering of his daughters to the men of Sodom in Genesis chapter 19 verse 8 constitutes sexual abuse of his daughters, which created a confusion of kinship roles that was ultimately played out through the incestuous acts in Genesis chapter 19 verses 30-38. A number of commentators describe the actions of Lot's daughters as rape. Esther Fuchs suggests that the text presents Lot's daughters as the initiators and perpetrators of the incestuous rape. Ilan Kut suggests that today it would be called drug rape, but concludes that it was actually Lot who abused his daughters, and this was covered up by the biblical narrators. Family tree religious views. Jewish view. In the Bereshith of the Torah, Lot is first mentioned at the end of the weekly reading portion, Parashat Noach. The weekly reading portions that follow, concerning all of the accounts of Lot's life, are read in the Parashat Lekh Lecha and Parashat Vayera. In the Midrash, a number of additional stories concerning Lot are present, not found in the Tanakh, as follows. Abraham took care of Lot after Haran was burned in a gigantic fire in which Nimrod, king of Babylon, tried to kill Abraham. While in Egypt, the Midrash gives Lot much credit because, despite his desire for wealth, he did not inform Pharaoh of Sarah's secret, that she was Abraham's wife. Christian view. Despite Lot's flaws, Christians view him as a righteous man and draw upon New Testament scriptures that make direct references to his day, such as in Luke chapter 17 verses 20-32, the Pharisees asked Jesus when the kingdom of God would come. This triggered a topic that Jesus addressed his disciples about, concerning the days of the Son of Man. In his discourse, he likened this time to the days of Lot and reminded his followers about what happened to this man's wife, saying, "Remember Lot's wife." 2-6 And turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes condemned them with an overthrow, making them an ensample unto those that after should live ungodly. 2-7 And delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. 2-8. 2 Peter chapter 2 verses 6-8. Islamic view. Lut in the Quran is considered to be the same as Lot in the Hebrew Bible. He is considered to be a messenger of God and a prophet of God. In Islamic tradition, Lut lived in Ur and was a nephew of Ibrahim. He migrated with Ibrahim to Canaan and was commissioned as a prophet to the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. His story is used as a reference by Muslims to demonstrate Islam's strong disapproval of homosexuality. He was commanded by Allah to go to the land of Sodom and Gomorrah to preach monotheism and to stop them from their lustful and violent acts. Lut's messages were ignored by the inhabitants, prompting Sodom and Gomorrah's destruction. Though Lut left the city, his wife looked behind and was destroyed. The allegation of drunkenness and incestuous behavior of Lot is completely rejected in Islam, and he is regarded as one of the messengers of Allah who was an example of moral and spiritual rectitude. Bibliography. Calmet, Augustine. Calmet's Dictionary of the Holy Bible. Boston. Crocker and Brewster. p. 737. LCCBS 440, c3. Retrieved July 9, 2012.